All right, I am now joined by a very, very, very that's three varies special guest, longtime friend of the program. It is Barstool RDT, Eric Arditti. You can read him on barstoolsports.com. You can listen to him on the Exit 52 podcast. He is the absolute best. I'm so thankful and lucky that he's back on the pod once again. Eric, there's so much I wanted to talk to you about. Our Baltimore Orioles ended the season not on a high note, so we have a lot of Orioles stuff, also some MLB playoff stuff. So first, how are you? How's everything going?
It's good. It's good. We're just trudging along to the playoffs and just watching the games. Kind of lights are on, nobody's really home, and it's they've been great playoff games. I mean, they've been fantastic, but it just sucks when you get knocked out. Like I was thinking a week ago right now, I was like they're going to win this series. They're easily going to win tomorrow. Like of course they are. So it sucks to kind of come to that realization that it's not, and they're done and the guys are all fishing and golfing and doing whatever, and we're already looking on to next year. But great playoffs so far. Just sucks the way the season ended for the O's.
I think I saw a tweet because there's a lot of severe weather going on in the Gulf of Mexico right now, and it was like a video on Twitter. It was like Cancun, Mexico is being hit by Hurricane Milton, and somebody was like, "Damn, there's a lot of Orioles and Astros down there. I hope they're okay." So
Yeah, that's I was waiting for some of those, and yeah, there they are. So
there they are. Yeah. So when you look back at the way the season ended, obviously losing at the hands of the Kansas City Royals in the wild card, and even just like the last couple months before that, like what are your emotions and what kind of frustrated you most about the way it ended?
I mean, I think I'm as frustrated as anyone. Just and again, it's kind of like we saw this coming the whole second half, and it was just the offense could do nothing. And I got a little bit of hope that last week when they played Minnesota and then the Yankees, but man, I mean the bats they just and again we saw it for a majority of the second half, and they couldn't do anything. They couldn't get everything was a home run, and if it wasn't a home run, they weren't scoring. They're not gap to gap hitting. They're not getting guys over. Like, I mean, how the Royals won, get a guy on first, or they got a guy on second, or Bobby Witt walks, or whatever. Somebody walks, he steals a base, and then Bobby Witt hits him over. Ground ball to the right side, move him over, and then boom, base hit scores him. So little stuff like that, the Orioles didn't do, and that was kind of their big downfall. Everybody was trying to hit an 800-foot 5-run home run, and you're never going to do that. And it's just it again. We saw this coming a mile away. It just sucks that that's actually how it happened. But that's what frustrates me the most is the guys who just didn't hit. Adley, Gunnar had a bad series. Santander had a bad series. I mean, everybody pretty much except for Mullins had a bad series. So it just say whatever you want about the hitting coaches, but the guys on the field just absolutely did not. They might as well not have brought bats up there with them. So that was just stuff that's what was so frustrating. Your pitching staff gives up 3 runs, and you're like, oh my god, we're gonna kill them. There's no way, and then you only score one. So on a solo home run, lo and behold. So it sucks.
Yeah, but like I feel like as Orioles fans, we're like kind of accustomed to like waiting for the long ball because for that like 5 year stretch where they were good 10 years ago, it was like homer or bust. And don't get me
Hmm.
wrong, when they're hitting homers, it's awesome. But I think another like frustrating thing for me was just in the regular season how close the Yankees were the entire time. Like the Yankees never pulled away. It was never like, oh, the here come the Yankees. They're
Yep.
10 games in front of us. It was always like one or two. So they were like a couple series away from winning the division. And then that was just like the most frustrating part for me.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. They're a competent closer away from, winning the division by, I don't know, 4 or 5 games. I mean, Kimbrel single-handedly lost them a handful of games, but like I was talking to somebody and they said if you run a healthy Felix Bautista back with this roster, they probably win 97 or 98 games. And, that's it right there. But yeah, I mean, you're right because again, the Yankees clinched in game 159. Like that's what I was telling somebody. I had a bunch of Yankee fans in my mentions and DMs, and it was like, yeah, like yes, you guys won the division, and I told people I said it's because you guys stayed healthiest. I was like, this isn't like a knock. I'm not making fun of you, but you guys won the division because you stayed healthier, and that's part of the game. That I mean, you ask any team in sports, it's all about who can stay the healthiest. The Orioles had 1.5 billion guys on their IL, so like I said, people thought I was like legitimately trolling. I was like, credit to the Yankees, you guys stayed healthy, and they were like, oh, Garrett Cole missed 2 months and this and that. And it's like the Orioles have 55 guys on the IL right now. Like they were starting Nick Maton at at times. Emmanuel Rivera was getting like legitimate at bats for this team. No offense to Rivera, I love him, but it's like that's they're not going to win a division like that. So yeah, I mean you're right though. The Yankees didn't run away with it, and the Yankees are good. Like that's don't get me wrong, the Yankees are a very good team. They played bad too. The Dodgers, and that was the thing that kind of made me feel like okay was every team in baseball, even the really good teams, had these awful like month stretches, month and a half, 2 months. So it's like when somebody gets sick in your locker room and like everybody just gets sick and it kind of knocked everybody out for a little bit. So yeah, the Yankees again, credit to them. It would be a real shame if they were to lose the next three or, get knocked out by Kansas City. I said, I can't believe Kansas City, like they're going to make me root for them over the Yankees, but it's, it's whatever. I'll do anything to keep the Pinstripes from getting number 28.
I always say my favorite team is whoever the Yankees are playing. So the enemy of my enemy is absolutely my friend in this case. Yeah, I just feel like the thing that also just like during the regular season, where it's like July through September, where the team just like good hitting is contagious, but bad hitting apparently is even more contagious. Like I don't know if they have a vaccine out yet that'll cover bad hitting. Was there a point when you're watching this team down the stretch where their like team OPS was like 691 in August, and you're like, did you already know that this was not going to end well?
I mean, obviously, like again, when they go through these elongated stretches of like not hitting, and again, it's not like it was like, oh, well, Adley's not hitting, or Mounty's not hitting, or Santander's not hitting. It was everybody grouped together, and that's when you're like, ugh, I don't know, something is wrong, like something's going on, and when you keep the longer that we're like, well, they just needed a break, and then they get to the All-Star break and they get their break, and then they win the first two out of the gate, and you're like, oh yeah, we're back, this is fine. And then they just never really found it again to the last weekend of the weekend of the season. But it's like, yeah, things middle of September, beginning of September, you're like, it's maybe they can turn it on. Like it wouldn't have surprised me if the Orioles one game just like boom, flip the switch, we turn it on, we're good, because we've seen that from them before. It just never came. It was you're sitting there in front of your house waiting for a package, and it just doesn't show up, and you're like, oh, I got the notification that said it was going to be here today, and then you check your email and it's like, oh, it got delayed till next week. Okay, never mind. That's fine. So yeah, I mean, there were little bits and pieces where you're like, if it's beginning of September and the guys haven't really started to pick it up, then it's like, oh, this is not going to be good. Again, especially when everybody was out and you were like crossing your fingers, like, man, I hope we can get some of these guys back. And they ended up coming back, and the guys that they were missing were all awesome. Ramon, Mounty, and Westberg, down the stretch, but. When nobody was hitting, yeah, like the August, September, it's like, this is going to be tough to try and overcome.
It just sucks because I feel like the person that was kind of wearing most of the criticism for that was Adley, somebody who didn't like miss time because of injury. So like you're like, all right, we still got Adley in there every single day. Hyde's putting him in the 2 spot regardless of how he's hitting. And I looked, he was batting 193 from July on. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's hard. And then people are coming at him, and I feel like some people are like, oh man, this next year he's got to go on a revenge tour, which sucks. But do you think it was like injury related? Do you think some like the 45 hitting coaches that they have like could have done a better job working with him? I like that's the one that really bothers me the most was him.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was injured. Again, that I know he said he wasn't. Hyde said he wasn't, or Hyde kind of sidestepped it and said, he's battling stuff, and Adley said his body didn't feel right. But like you said, I mean, I think it was June 27th when he came up to throw the guy out, and his hand came up, and the foul ball hit right off his hand, and immediately his hand just started like shaking uncontrollably. And ever since then, I mean, if you can pinpoint it to that injury, that date, and his stats just plummeted. And so, yeah, again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not out there. I'm not in the clubhouse with them. I don't, I have no idea what was going on, but it would seem from the outside looking in that that's a guy who was hurt and couldn't grip the ball or the bat, and just couldn't get it going. But I don't know. And the hitting coach thing, we loved the hitting coaches to, last year in the first half of the year. Nobody had any issue that there were 2 hitting coaches. I don't think it's an issue. I don't think it's as big of an issue as everyone says. They think it's like when they say, oh, there's 2 hitting coaches, there's too many opinions to listen to. It's like they think that gunners standing in the box for batting practice, and you got one hitting coach here and one guy here, and they're both talking at the same time, being like, you got to do this, and the other guy's saying, no, you got to do this. And it's like, I don't know if that's the case. Like, again, it worked for them for a long time and they were awesome. And we had no problem with it. And then the second that it started to go down, they became easy targets. So I don't think that was like I could see one or both getting fired. That's just how it goes. It's in the NFL. You fire a coordinator first, unless you're the Jets. But you take a guy, special teams coach or something like that.
assistant,
And
something.
yeah, assistant water quality control guy. Like you kind of start out down there and then you work your way up. So it wouldn't shock me if one or both weren't back. But I don't think that has much to do with it, like everybody said. But yeah, I mean, Adley was kind of the big one. I mean, Gunnar had an MVP type season and he kind of came and went. But Santander had a great year and then he kind of hit a rough patch. And Mullins, we know about his first half and then how good his second half was, but Adley was, I mean, and it's not even like he really showed signs of like, oh, there's the old Adley. There, he's getting back to that. Like, there he is. He's working his way up. It just there's nowhere to be seen. So yeah, next year is a big year for him. I heard Jim Duquette, I guess, called him out for his weight and said he was out of shape and needs to come into camp looking better and stuff like that. So I have no idea if that is a factor or what, but I'm looking forward to Adley, proving everybody wrong and being like, hey, look, that second half was an anomaly, and I still am one of the best catchers in baseball.
The weight thing's hilarious. Maybe he's doing too many like food review TikToks with his girlfriend.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. The hitting coach thing, like I've looked into this because I that's what I heard all like the second half was just like it's a hitting coach's problem. And you look even like recently, like the Reds and the Pirates have like I think the Reds had multiple hitting coaches. They just fired all of them. I think the Pirates they at least fired their main one if they didn't have a different one with him. But so teams are already starting to unload their hitting coaches, but the players all universally are like, is it like Fuller and Borg Schulte? Like, we love these guys. I go to war for them. It's not their fault. But then you're like, if the whole team can't hit, like who else are we can't we got to put blame somewhere. I don't know. So that's kind of where it's like I'm conflicted on who I should be mad at. I know I have to be mad at somebody, but I just don't know who.
I always say again, it comes down to the players. Like these are grown men. That's like I go to my daughter's t-ball games, softball games, and if they're not doing stuff right, that's where I'm like, hey, this is on the coaches. If you go to high school games, same thing. Hey, this is on a coach or something like that. But in the pros, it's like these are, I'm not blaming Ryan Fuller for James McCann going up and striking out with a guy on third base and one out in the playoff game in game one, on 3 pitches. Like I'm not, these guys are professionals. This is their job. They've been there before. At the end of the day, they have to execute. It comes down to like see ball, hit ball. At the end of the day, whatever a hitting coach tells you, these guys have been doing this for 25 years now, So it kind of falls on them, I would say. But I definitely hear what you're saying. And again, in today's day and age, we have to point a finger and we have to say, that's the guy. It's his fault right there. And we need him with his head, get the guillotine out. We have to do a public execution right now. And if it doesn't happen right now, then everything is a shame. And this is, it's all going to go downhill. So I totally get why. I'm just not in the camp of like mid-August. Everyone's like, you gotta fire these guys and get them out of here. But again, it would not shock me if one or both are gone and they bring in, I don't know, hitting coaches or whatever, but bring in Matt Swope from Maryland. That's my guy. But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I kind of related to that. Is somebody brought this up to me? It's just like they feel like every time a prospect gets called up, I mean, they're going to be fine in the long run, but it just feels like initially when prospects come up, they have a tough time. I think you were on here when Jackson was going through his like 2 for 34, and then Mayo was 4 for 41. I just feel like, who was the other one? Norby, and then even like Cowser when he first came up was pretty bad. So it's like, I don't know why every time an Orioles prospect calls up, it's initially bad, but then you look around baseball and you're like, James Wood, hot out of the gate. Like these other guys on other teams are killing it. That's the one that kind of like, I can't figure that out.
I think it's just baseball. Like, I mean, Jackson Churio was bad, like his first month. And obviously, and I was reading something and it was like, the Brewers, I don't know if people thought the Brewers were going to win the division or if they were going to, I mean, they traded Burns and, they had all this other stuff going on. They had, got a new manager and all that. But they had time to let them, like, we're going to let him struggle and we're going to let him go out of the gate. And whatever happens, like, he knows he's up here and they signed him to that mega deal before opening day. So, like, guys coming in like Jackson and Mayo, like, they were kind of like panic moves because again, I mean, myself included, everyone and their mother on Twitter was like, Elias doesn't know what he's doing. How can you not bring up Jackson Holiday? Then he brings him up and he's awful. And we're all like, how can you keep adding him? What are you doing, Elias? Like, you don't know how to manage it, how to run a team. And it's like, well, maybe the guy who built a World Series team, winner does know what he's doing. And like, maybe when Jackson didn't start the year up here, he knew what he was doing. And same thing with Mayo. And, those guys get rushed up. And again, they're playing every day against top competition in the AL East. Like, it's tough, it's hard. I mean, it's not, and like I said, Jackson makes his debut in Fenway on like these dark, cold, rainy nights. Like, that's not ideal conditions. And I don't know. And I've seen it some places because remember, I mean, Gunnar got off to a bad start. Adley did too. I think these guys are just so young, and baseball so hard. So, again, some guys like James Wood come out of the gate, swinging, and some don't. But eventually, Gunnar found his way. Adley found his way. Colton found his way. So, I don't know what it is if it's an Orioles thing or not, but I attribute it to the guys being super young when they come up because the majority of them are.
I like what you said too about just like they are called up under extreme circumstances out of like extreme need. Like
Yes.
Mayo was like, we need a bat, we need a jolt. And he's obviously it's hard to look at their AAA numbers because I feel like in AAA everybody down there is batting 350 with a million homers. So it's like, all right, cool, call one of them up. They'll be instant plug and play for a team that needs it. It's like, the one that bothers me is that like Norby was bad here and then he goes to Miami and he batted like had like 8 home runs in like a month, and he was batting like 300 in August. And you're like, God damn, that would be nice to have at second
Yeah,
base.
yeah, it stinks because again, like we didn't know obviously Jordan Westberg was going to break his hands like 11 minutes after they traded Norby. Like it's just brutal timing, But again, I mean, obviously he would have come up and played with Westberg out, but you assume that Westberg wasn't going to break his hand, and you're like, there's no room for this guy because again, you're not going to bring him up. Well, I mean, he kind of did, but you're not going to bring him up to sit on the bench and just sit there because that's we see it with Heston. These guys need, and Ramon too. Ramon is he's not a prospect or anything, but you look at Ramon when he has to play every day and when he plays every day, he is awesome. And when he doesn't play every day, it gets him in this rut. And again, it's hard to get at bats and get your rhythm going and stuff like that. So I understand like the outcry being like, how can you keep these guys down there? And it's like, well, they're getting consistent at bats. And they've always said that. They said that with Stowers and all that, being like, we're not going to bring up Kyle Stowers to be a fourth outfielder and play against righties or pinch hit in the eighth inning of a game, a blowout. We want him down there in AAA, getting as many reps, seeing as many pitches as he can, and that's not going to happen up here. So, yeah, it's just a weird, again, like we talked about the emergency shoving Mayo out there. Like Mayo wasn't ready, and you could tell right away, and he never looked confident, he never looked comfortable. And I'm sure this year, he'll be up this year. He'll probably start the year, he could start the year in the bigs. He'll be perfectly fine because he has a full off season to be like, hey, listen, I know where I'm going to be. I know what I'm going to do. I know what my role is going to be. That's such a big mental thing. Like, again, we think it's the show where you're like, give me that guy. I'm going to call him up. I'm going to bat him fourth, and he's going to go 3 for 4. Like, that's not how it goes. It's just, it's such a hard game. So it's funky, and everybody has to get into a rhythm, and it's tough. But some guys just adjust to it better than others.
I think some guys are like wired better to be that fourth outfielder, ride the bench at bats once a week. There's not that many, but the guys that can do it, they'll play for like 15 years. It'll be like
Yep.
Jake Marisnick will be like 40 years old. And you're like,
Yep.
how is Jake Marisnick still employed? And you're like, well, he can come off the bench whenever. He's cool with it. And then other guys, you're like, if revisionist history was a thing, you'd be like, if only he had a full season's worth of at bats and opportunities, he would be an all-star. Doesn't always work like that. It sucks because I'm friends with a lot of people like that, where it's like, if they only played him every day, it'd be a whole different story, and it sucks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I get, I mean, you look at a guy like Kevin Pillar. So, he's had a very good year, or he's had a very good career. And all he has to do is play against lefties, and he'll play defense and a defensive replacement and stuff like that. And again, you carve out a niche role because again, everybody wants to play. Like Kyle Stowers wants to play every day. Connor Norby wants to play every day. There's just no room for them. And again, it's like you're not going to start them over a Cowser or a Mullins or a Santander. And that, like you said, it's a big mental thing that a lot of guys have to say, okay, well, because like we talked, I mean, think about this. That guy is probably the best player on his little league team, on his middle school team, on his travel team, on his high school team, probably best player in his state, best player at his college, best player at his high school, best player in JUCO, best player, all of these. And then you get to the bigs and you're like, oh, there's like four of me. There's every guy in, every guy who I'm competing with was same thing. Best guy in their state, best guy in their team, best guy at their college, best guy in their conference. So it's like it does, because for that's 15 years of being told you're the man. Hey, you're going to go to the bigs. You're going to start. You're going to hit 600 home runs. You're going to do this. Not everyone's Bryce Harper. It doesn't happen like that. And some guys, have to come up and say, I'm a platoon bat. I got no problem doing that. And if it helps the team, let's keep this going. So.
Yeah, it sucks. I wish everybody if I had it my way, everybody would get playing time.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah.
get consistent playing at bats.
I like that. I like that.
I had a couple off-season things I wanted to talk to you about. One, kind of sticking in the same vein. It's like Anthony Santander. The homers were there for him. Average, at times the bat would go missing, but I think overall he's definitely somebody that I wouldn't mind bringing back. It does sound like the team is going to go in a different direction. They're like, we want to be less reliant on the home run ball, and you're like, shit, I don't know if Tony's coming back. What would you do with Santander moving forward this offseason?
I mean, I have no problem bringing him back. I said like a 3-year deal, like a fourth-year option, something like that. I mean, I don't know. I think whoever doesn't get Soto, whatever teams don't get Soto, will kind of look for a step down guy. And I think, Santander is perfect right there. Somebody could overpay him and give him 5 years, 100 million. And it's like, I wish you the best, Tony. Go get that money. I don't know if that's the money. Again, it's not my money, so I don't give a shit. But I wouldn't be shocked if the Orioles were like, hey, we're sorry, we're not going to match that. They're going to give him a qualifying offer. I saw somebody today, I forget who it was, but they were like, offer him 3 for 66 mil or 3 for 75, and if he takes it, he takes it. If not, then, I hope he gets a lot more, and we'll thank him for his contributions, and he'll be an Orioles Hall of Famer. But I'm in the camp. I like him. I think you bring him back. Him in the clubhouse is massive. I think Spenny, on our podcast, compared him to kind of the same as like a Nelson Cruz kind of father figure, guy in the clubhouse, veteran that people, go to and keeps everybody loose and goes from there. So I'm a Santander fan till I'm in the ground. So I obviously want him back. It's just, what's the money? What's the years? So.
Do you think that by not bringing him back, it would help? Like we just talked about the whole thing about giving guys opportunities. Like, would this be the opportunity for full-time Heston? Do you think that would be more beneficial and cost effective?
I I had somebody tell me like, Heston's earned his right to start in the right field and get at bats, and I'm like, well, how? Why? What has he done? Said he hasn't done anything. He had a grand slam against the Rangers, but I mean, he hasn't showed me much of anything. I mean, I want him to be good. I want him to be awesome. I haven't seen it, and it sucks because he has these injuries. The concussion obviously was awful, and it's not his fault. But I mean, between the myocarditis and the concussion, I mean, he's lost a lot of time playing baseball, and you can tell when he came back. Obviously, he should not have come back, and that's on the team. That's not on him. But he wasn't ready. And then when he came, the last couple of weeks of the season, he looked better, but still, I'm like striking out a lot. He played a little bit better right field when he was out there, but. I don't know. I mean, if Heston is your contingency plan, I'm like, again, talk about unproven. I mean, that's you're replacing Nick Markakis with Travis Snyder, and we're like, what are we doing here? So,
Throwback.
yeah, I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but like, I haven't seen it out of Heston so far. He's a perfectly nice guy. He's an awesome dude, but like, I don't feel good being like, oh, thanks, Tony. See ya. We're going to plug in another 40 home run, 100 RBI guy, and his name is Heston. Like, I haven't seen it. So,
Yeah, that's a good. That would almost feels like they need to go out into free agency again to try to fill some like at bats platoon type deal.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do 150. I don't know if Heston can play 150 games.
That's the
Um,
thing. Like, Tony stayed healthy. And
yeah,
again, whether it's your fault or not, I mean, availability is the best ability. If you got to be out there. So, and again, it's not his fault. Clay Holmes tried to put a fastball through his ear hole. Like, that's not his fault at all, but it happened, so it sucks. He seems to catch any bad break. It seems like Heston's on the other end of it. So
what's your ideal Orioles outfield going into next year? Would you run it back with the same trio from this year?
I think I would. And then, I like, There's talk about, Mayo being a right fielder and stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, I honestly haven't really looked at like outfield candidates, but like I love, Cedric, if he can play the way he did in the second half, obviously I want that every single day. Um, his defense is unreal. Cowser, his defense is great. Again, his bat will come along, and we saw that come and go, all year. But again, if I had my way and I could pick, I would pick Soto or not Soto.
Mm-mm,
Of course,
I
I'd
would
pick
too.
Soto. Santander, but I don't know. I got to go and look at like who's other free agents and stuff like that. But I would, if they did run it back with those three, I'd be perfectly fine. I would have no qualms, no worries, no nothing. So.
I would like O'Hearn back on his club option. I just would like.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I want O'Hearn back too. He's a professional hitter who, again, we talked about roles. That's a guy who's like, put me in right, put me at first, put me at DH, whatever. I don't care. I'll just tell me when to hit and I'll hit. So like that's a professional who, again, he has probably had multiple times in his MLB career where he's like, you know what? This may not be for me. And every time he gets that next chance, he's like, I'm not going to let this chance go. And again, you could tell just by the way he carries himself and his quotes and how he plays. Like that's a guy who knows every at bat could be his last at bat. So I love how he approaches the game and his role in the team. So yeah, bring me back Ryan O'Hearn 100%.
Such a big O'Hearn guy. Yeah, his pinch hitting numbers are great too. I feel like yeah, he's somebody that like he doesn't mind if he comes off the bench. He got his opportunities against lefties this year. I think he did a lot better this year than he has in the past. Got a lot more opportunities too, so maybe that was
Mm-hmm.
correlated. What would you do with Corbin Burns? Would you give $200+ million of Mr. Rubenstein's money to him?
I would. I would give him Rubenstein's money. Again, it doesn't bother me. I mean, they'll offer him a qualifying offer. He'll turn it down. Um, I mean, I would try and get him back. I hope they give him an honest offer. And again, if you're Corbin, he had that quote where he's like, "Oh, I got to go and I got to look at the farm systems of some of the teams," and that pissed a lot of people off. But if I'm him, I turn around and I'm like, guys in this clubhouse, is there a better spot to be? Like the Dodgers aren't gonna offer him 250 million. Like again, if you're a pitcher and you're like, I'm looking to win for the next 5 to 6 years, who better than the Orioles to be on? I mean, again, they have all the talent. Like all the talk. He can bring them to the next level. We saw what he did. The game he pitched in the playoffs was the best game I've seen pitched outside of John Means no hitter and like Mike Mussina in like 19 in the 90s. Like again, if he's a guy who is worried about winning, and he's a Boris guy, so it's all about money with Boris. But I would be like, hey, I got no problem going back to the Orioles on like a 5 year, I don't know, 200 million, something like that. But I think he should strongly consider them if they present an offer that is worth like, if they offer him 5 years, 100 million, he's gonna say, you guys can fold that up and shove it right back. But give him something competitive and make him be like, you know what, like I do really like it here, and again, the guys on the team are great, and this is a clubhouse who is they're molded to win. So why not? So I would try it 100%. I don't think it'll happen, but I want it back for sure. Absolutely.
I just worry that all these other teams are going to look at the other free agents on the market and they're not going to want to get got by like one of these things that happened last year. They're like, all right, we're just going to go out. We're going to get the best guy in the market. That's Corbin Burns. We saw what he did down the stretch. We're going to take the month of August. We're going to forget that happened. We're going to Men in Black that one away. Don't look at those. But
Yep.
yeah, I think you're right. If it's a competitive offer, if it's like Orioles or like right up there, I don't see why he wouldn't. Um, the state of the rotation though, it you definitely feel a lot better with him next year than without him, obviously, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, again, a year, hopefully a full healthy year of Grayson. You hope Kyle Bradish will be back in the second half, but I mean, Dean Kramer has looked incredible the second half. Even getting hit on the wrist with 103 miles an hour, every start after that, he was awesome. So, I mean, if you can have a rotation of Burns, Burns, Grayson, Kramer, Bradish eventually when he comes back, Suarez looked really, really good. Suarez he should get most valuable Oriole votes. He was awesome and he really kept them afloat. And then a guy like Cade Povich, who I was really, really down on Povich. His first couple starts, which was dumb of me because it's a rookie getting thrown right into a pennant race, and shocker, he didn't look that good at times. Who could have seen that coming? Um, but down the stretch, he was great. He was awesome, and I love the bulldog kind of mentality I saw out of him late. And was going deep into games and he wasn't walking guys. So again, that's another name to look out for. But I think they need to add at least a veteran. Again, if it's not Burns, but I like the way that the rotation is set up, and even the bullpen. With Felix coming back healthy, and hopefully they pick up Sir Anthony's option and Coulomb.
See,
They got guys, so again, add maybe a bullpen arm. I don't know who, but go out and add one to each, and I'd be perfectly okay with that.
that's interesting about Dominguez. So you would bring him back? I've seen a lot of people that are like, "Thank you for your time. We're good." That
Oh no, no, I
you
I
liked
want
what you
him
just
back.
saw?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Again, he gives up solo home runs. That's perfectly sure. Every pitcher does. It happens. Like go ask the Phillies right now if they would like Gregory Soto and Sir Anthony Dominguez back as their bullpen. Has shit away another playoff game. Like just I don't know. I thought he was awesome for us. Again, Soto. You take away Soto's first three appearances, and Soto was incredible. He was really really good. So I liked what I saw, and again, just giving those guys a full offseason and a full year with the Orioles. This is a bullpen coach, or a bullpen and the pitching lab and all that. They made Austin Voth look competent for like a year and a half. Like, what could they do for Sir Anthony and Soto? So yeah, I definitely want them back for sure. Because if you can get, a setup. Think about a 7-8-9, it's 6-7-8-9, I guess, of like Coulomb, Sir Anthony, Cano, Felix. That's scary if they're all clicking at the same time. That's plus Keegan Aiken was great this year. Like they have arms. So I would rather have way too many bullpen arms than not have enough. So that's yeah. I'm in. Bring back Sir Anthony and Soto, 100%.
I know we've talked a lot about the guys that got at the deadline. Obviously, mixed results. How about Trevor Rogers? How are you feeling going into next year with Trevor, given what we've seen so far? I heard at AAA the slider looks good, which I love. It's like, well, could you have done that like a month ago?
Well,
When he
again,
was
they when they brought him down to AAA, all they did was tinker with him, and he wasn't throwing like I think his two seam as much as he was, and they're when you go down to AAA again, people were worried about stats and all that, and it's like I don't give a shit about the stats in AAA. It's all about there are balls of clay down there. It's just a big thing of clay, and they're molding them, and they're going to be like, hey, here's what you did in Miami, or here's what we saw you do when you were an all-star in Miami. You're doing this, well, let's bring it down here. And that's all they do is fix and tinker and get everything right. So again, I'm fully on it. If he can contribute and be awesome, that would be great. I liked what the numbers and the analytics stuff that I was reading and seeing about him from his last couple starts at AAA. So if they can figure out how to get him going, that's another massive arm, that they can put in there. He can be a rotation guy or the bullpen. They can kind of do whatever they want with him.
just a bummer to trade two really nice, good prospects for a project that you have to like tinker with and like do the Ghosts ball of clay molding thing with him. Like that's just not.
Yeah, but again, like Stowers was never going to play here. Yeah, Norby was never going to play here. So it's like I have no I would rather those guys get traded. Obviously, I wanted something better back, but like those guys were going to rot down to AAA, and Norby was never going to play over Westberg, Ramon, or any of these guys, Kobe when he comes up, and so again, I was okay with the trade, and it hope they do well in Miami, but yeah, it sucked that we didn't get the immediate results, but again, hopefully a full off season with the pitching lab can get him right, and it's kind of it's a win-win for both teams.
All right, I wanted to end with a former Oriole, some MLB playoff talk. So the Dodgers Padres series is electric. It's kicking
Mhm.
off here in a little bit when we're taping this, so I definitely want to check that out. But former Oriole Manny Machado, he made some headlines. He endangered the life of Dave Roberts, the Dodgers manager, by violently launching a ball in the direction of him. Thank God the net was there. Who knows what would have happened?
Mhm.
Everybody go check out Eric's blog on barstoolsports.com about this. It's just a tragedy. How outrageous is this story like 3 days after it happened?
I thought it was pretty soft by Roberts, and like I wrote in the blog, like I like the Dodgers. I love rooting for them. Like I like Mookie, I like Freddie, like I love Otani. Like there's nothing better than staying up late and watching a Dodgers game on MLB Network. But it's like, dude, I mean he tossed the ball, and I wrote it in the blog, and then I think what's their manager's name, Schilt
Schilt.
or whatever. Yeah, like he said it today too, being like. I've watched Manny Machado play baseball for like 15 years now. I know how strong his arm is and how pinpoint he can be. If he wanted to give Dave Roberts a haircut, he would have. Like he easily could have. Like he tossed it with a little bit of heat on it, just tossing the ball out there because that's what you do after a ball touches the ground and gets scuffed up on a throw to second. That's literally what he was doing. Was he doing it on purpose to get their attention? Probably because Musgrove or because what's his name, Mister Destroy the Clubhouse Flaherty had just hit Tatis, so he was kind of just tossing it back. He didn't throw it, he wasn't Randy Johnson like up on the mound chucking it in there. He's not Roger Clemens throwing a bat at Mike Piazza. Like he tossed the baseball to the ball boy, the bat boy, whatever, in the tunnel. So it's insane how overblown this thing is, and they're submitting videos to MLB, and I think it was Nightingale. It was like no one's going to be suspended, no one, no one's in trouble, no one's fine, no one's nothing because nothing happened. Like it's incredibly soft from LA, so it's their fans are just tears aplenty in my mentions. So it is a tough look for them.
I mean, the Dodgers fans launching insults at you via Twitter is definitely better than the alternative, which is them launching things at you in person, which is what they have tended to do at
Yeah.
Dodger Stadium. This is insane. He's like, I didn't even see it when it happened, but like 24 hours later at his press conference, he's like, that was disrespectful. And you would feel like, yeah, like you said, if Manny actually had intent on it, he would have thrown it harder. He wouldn't have four-hopped it, and the Dodgers dugout would have reacted way more like up in arms than like somebody. I think somebody was like, Teoscar was like, oh, come on, man. And that was it. Like you
Yeah,
would
no,
think if
yeah,
this is a big thing, everybody be freaking out.
yeah. Again, Roberts didn't even see it until. Oh, by the way, Teoscar, that's the guy. I would love Teoscar Hernandez. If Santander walks, I give me Teoscar. I completely forgot about that. Um, but yeah, again, like for him to be like, oh, well, first his comments, he said there was intent, and then like 30 seconds later, he's like, we don't know his intent. It's like so there was, but we don't know. Like what are you doing, dude? Again, like I thought Dave Roberts was like a baseball OG. Like he's part of history forever with the Boston team. But it's like, dude, if you're like, this is what we're crying about. Like what are we doing? I thought I didn't know if it was like a mental game and he's trying to get in his head or trying to do something. But it's like this is not the way to do it. Like you come off looking very, very soft, my man. So it's like I don't know what your end game was here, but it ain't working out for you right now or the Dodgers. So let's I again I wanted just like, oh, give me a good series. I would love to see both teams kind of go off. Now I'm like full go dads go. Like these are my Padres. I love them. So sorry Dodgers. It's gonna suck, but let's go Padres. So.
Also, Manny was a Dodger and played for Dave Roberts.
Yeah,
Like
that's the thing. Like they went to a World Series together. Like I don't think there's any ill will there.
I don't understand how the way Manny Machado is covered in national baseball media is so drastically unfair. They act like Manny is this like violent guy. Like they talk about his leadership, how he's not a leader, as if they're in the clubhouse with him. Like it just blows my why does baseball media look at what Manny Machado did 10 years ago and that's forever the person he is? Because there's stuff with Pedroia and a couple other little things, but like it's just insane to me.
Yeah. I mean, he was a hothead kid when he came up. Again, he was an idiot. Like I think we were all idiots at that age, and he did like the dumb thing with Donaldson. That was incredibly stupid on his part, and he knows that. Everybody knows it. And like him, spiking whatever Aguilar, Jesus Aguilar when he was on the Dodgers and all that. But yeah, I mean, like you read the comments. I think you Darvish in the Athletic reading. I think it was Rosenthal's article in the Athletic today where he was like, again, that article was awful, but he talked about it being like, yeah, you Darvish like went through a lot of personal stuff this year, and he was like, yeah, Manny Machado checked in on him every day, like. Who called the team meeting that lit the fire underneath the Padres the other night? Manny Machado was right in the middle of it. Who called out Fernando Tatis? What was that, 2020 or 2021 or whatever? Like when he was yelling at him in the dugout, being like, you got to be better. Like this is not you. Like this is a team. Man, again, and same thing with Bryce Harper. I used to hate Bryce Harper. Same thing. Cocky, little, entitled POS. Like this guy is never going to learn. What have they both done? They both kind of figure it out, being like, hey, man, I was such a jerk. I was such an ass. I kind of got to cool my jets. And now they're both like revered as they're looked at as legends and heroes on these teams. So they're leaders, and yeah, it's crazy that people still talk about Manny like that. Again, I'll always love the guy, but it's wild to me. Like you said, it's crazy how people still like bring up that old stuff and all that.
The leadership thing blows my mind. Like I was listening to like Chris Rose talk about it today. He's like, Manny tries to be a leader, but he comes up short. And I was just like, he 5 minutes before he endangered the life of Dave Roberts, he was literally calling a team meeting trying to rally the troops. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And Ken Rosenthal versus the Padres is like, it's a beef I've been learning more about. Doesn't make any sense to me. He
Mm.
outwardly in his columns like just goes at them. Here's what he said in the last column. Machado is far from the Padres' only irritant. Tatis Jr. is a smiling, dancing peacock. Jurickson Profar is the kid who pulls the fire alarm at school, then asks, "Who? Me? What? What did the Padres do to Ken Rosenthal? Why does he
Yeah,
go out of his
I
way?"
I don't know. It's crazy. Again, that article I tweeted. I said, as someone who writes a lot of sad and pathetic articles, that was a sad and pathetic article. Like that is reaching. That is like he pulled a muscle reaching so hard. Like it's crazy, crazy. So again, I read that being like, this is not great baseball journalism, and I know not great baseball journalism. Let me tell you that. Nobody knows that better than I do, and that was pretty bad. So
There's another part in there where he's like talking about the throw, and he's like, the Athletic has video of the incident that is not currently available to the public. I'm
yeah,
like, what?
put it out then. Put it out. Like let us see it.
What smoking gun could they possess to like be like, oh, this is too heinous to put out there, but we have the footage. It's like Alex Jones. We have the documents right
Yeah.
here, folks.
Yeah,
Like,
again, it's like the we have a second video of a second shooter
yep,
in Dallas with JFK, but we can't show you. And it's like, all right, so don't even say anything then. Like,
we could put it out, but we're not going to. We
yeah,
have it.
was there like could you read his lips where Manny's like scanning the dugout and goes, there he is, there's Dave Roberts. I'm gonna throw this ball as hard as I can at him. Like, no,
Yep.
stop it. Like it's crazy. It's wild.
It makes people like rally behind the Padres more, which I think is the ultimate outcome of all of this. So
Yeah,
um
they've come out looking so good, so good.
it's insane. It just blows my mind the way that people talk about Machado and the Padres. So we're gonna be on them for the rest of the playoffs. We'll be watching them tonight play the Dodgers. Yeah, man. Do you have a World Series prediction so far of what you've seen?
Just anybody but the Yankees and Dodgers now. Like Yankees, Dodgers, and Phillies. If it's I'd be fine with the Mets. I'd be fine with the Dodgers. I'd be fine with, or not with the Padres. I'd be fine with Cleveland. I don't really want the Tigers to win. Um, but even the Royals. I'd be fine with the Royals. They don't. This Royals team didn't bother me. Just anybody but the Yankees, Dodgers, and see, I kind of want Ohtani to get a ring, but not this year at least. I don't know anybody but those teams I mentioned. So
If you're watching on YouTube, we just displayed the Shohei Ohtani banner that he's going to be, three batters away. So
yeah, I
um,
like that. I think it's good. I like that a lot.
I like the memes from it. Yeah, I like the Pods in the NL. I think I had Pods guards and Padres winning it before the postseason started, so I'll stick with that.
Hmm.
But it's been so much fun. There's a lot of storylines. Eric, thank you as always for coming on, talking ball. You're the man. Check him out, barstoolsports.com, and on the Exit 52 pod, always talking ball on there. So thank you, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you.